This video was created by VinylicPuma of VinylicPumaGaming.
So before we get into this video, I feel like it needs to be said, I like Fallout 4. I've made plenty of videos discussing the game before, and there are a lot of new introductions that Fallout 4 made that I really like. But with that said, Fallout 4 has definitely got a couple of glaring issues I'd like to see polished and refined whenever the next Fallout game comes out. So these will be the 5 reasons why I think Fallout 4 failed and left many gamers disappointed. Number 5. A general lack of weapons compared to the previous games. One of the things I definitely like about Fallout 4 is the more modular weapon crafting and customization systems. It is nice to be able to convert laser pistols into laser rifles and everything in between, and the ability to customize and improve your existing weapons is a welcome feature and was first introduced in Fallout New Vegas, and I think Bethesda did a great job on expanding upon that initial idea. At the same time though, and possibly because of this new modular weapon system, there is a general lack of weapons in Fallout 4, especially with certain ammo types like 5.56, 5mm rounds, and 2mm electromagnetic rounds. The only gun that uses 5.56 ammo is the assault rifle, and then of course there are weapons with the M4 carbine legendary weapon effect. And then miniguns only use 5mm rounds, and Gauss rifles only use 2mm electromagnetic rounds. I mean, where's the assault carbine from Fallout New Vegas, which also used the 5mm round? And it's weird because in previous Fallout games, especially New Vegas, there was an absolutely massive amount of weapons that were added to those games. For example, Fallout New Vegas has about 11 ballistic pistols, while Fallout 4 on the other hand has 7 ballistic pistols. And that's if you include the flare gun as a pistol. So really, you could argue that there are just 6 pistols in Fallout 4. And then of course there are 14 ballistic rifles in New Vegas compared to Fallout 4's 9 ballistic rifles. And as far as energy weapons go, there's absolutely no contest. New Vegas has 12 energy pistols and rifles compared to Fallout 4's 6. I just really wish that there were more interesting and unique takes on weapons that got added in Fallout 4. Hopefully Bethesda makes that a priority for the next game. Number 4. Lack of polish with the new settlement system. So I guess to be fair, I should probably say that I'm not personally a huge fan of the settlement crafting system, but I think that's more because the system lacks much needed refinement and polish in future installments. I think it's fair to say that the problem with Fallout 4's settlement system is that it's glitchy, and I have to install a bunch of mods in order to get it to work the way I want it to. While I like modders and I like the value that they can bring to a game, I'd rather many of the things I'm about to complain about worked extremely well to begin with at Fallout 4's initial launch. For example, why do certain objects I place float on uneven surfaces? Why was and why is there still no ability to raise or sink most objects into the ground to make them fit properly? Building at certain places like Starlight Drive-In is extremely aggravating because you can't simply place a prefabricated structure and not make it look like that it isn't floating above the ground in some way. While the developers over at Bethesda have added supports to make buildings look more natural, something as simple as a utility to flatten surfaces or a utility that raises or lowers objects into the ground might fix this particular problem that I have, and it might also present the player new creative opportunities as well. Another issue I have is with scrapping objects. There are certain things that cannot be scrapped at settlements unless you install a bunch of mods that allow you to scrap those things. Of course, I'm talking about mods like Scrap Everything or Scrap. Why can't I scrap degraded buildings and build new ones? Or why isn't there the option to automatically restore old pre-war buildings, especially at places like Murkwater Construction Site or at Jamaica Plain? The ability to restore these buildings to their pre-war glory would have been really interesting and would have made for some interesting quests. I think all I'm trying to say here is that I wish the settlement building system was a little more polished by the time the next Fallout game rolls around. It's not all bad, but I feel like there is just some more detail work that needs to be done to make it even better than it currently is. Number 3. Fallout 4's DLC. It's weird to me that Fallout 4 DLC has been kind of underwhelming. While I do like the launch schedule of the DLC and that a new DLC has been coming out every month for the past 6 months, I almost would have rather waited longer periods of time to acquire DLCs of higher quality. For example, a settlement building DLC might not necessarily be a problem, it's just that it has to add more than just some new building assets to the game. One of the reasons I think a lot more people, including myself, liked Vault-Tec Workshop was because it did add some quests and some new and interesting NPCs. When you look back on Fallout 3 and even New Vegas, you'll find the wait between each DLC that was released was much longer, but you also got bigger and better DLCs. Every DLC added a new campaign to experience, even if it wasn't more than just like 5 hours or so. And the best part about this was that you could pay $30 and get that season pass, and what you would ultimately get is 4 very high quality pieces of downloadable content. And this was definitely a far cry from the practices of companies like EA, where they take things out of the game at launch and sell it as day one DLC. I'm also looking at you, Capcom, although I've heard you've been getting better now. But back to Fallout 4. Assuming there's no DLC after Nuka World, Fallout 4 will only have 2 real campaign DLCs, a third campaign if we count Automatron, and then just the 3 other Workshop DLCs. And while I thought Vault-Tec was way better than Contraptions and Wasteland Workshop, the Workshop DLCs in general have just left me cold. I would have liked to have gone to new places, meet new interesting NPCs, acquire new weapons, and either kill the good or bad guys in that location like we've done in the previous Fallout games. Now, I just hope that there's less emphasis on settlement DLC for the next Fallout game, or if they do decide to add more settlement DLC, there's a significant story and plot element to it. Number 2. The dialogue system. So I think one thing many people would agree with is that Fallout 4's dialogue system isn't quite nearly as comprehensive or robust as the dialogue systems in the previous games. For example, in previous games, you would generally get anywhere from 3 to 5 or more dialogue choices for each situation. In Fallout 4, you are just limited to 4 dialogue choices. The only thing that exists now is speech checks that are just based on your charisma stat. In previous games like Fallout 3 and New Vegas, you would get alternative dialogue options depending on your skills. If you had a high science or medical skill, you could trigger new dialogue choices. In Fallout New Vegas, if your character had an intelligence special stat of just 1, it would affect your dialogue and interactions with NPCs. Some of these interactions are hilarious and gave people reasons to replay that game just to experience it as a dumb character. In Fallout 4, on the other hand, all intelligence mostly does is just affects the rate at which you gain experience and makes terminals easier to hack, and it doesn't add anything to the dialogue system. I suppose Fallout 4's dialogue system was implemented this way because you get a fully voiced player character. That said, it would have been entertaining to have a fully voiced protagonist that acted like a moron. There could have been a lot of interesting bits of creative dialogue there, particularly when interacting with key NPCs like Piper, Nick, or even some of the big faction leaders like Elder Maxon or Father from both the Brotherhood and Institute respectively. Maybe your own character's intelligence would have affected the intelligence of Father, and it would have determined his position within the Institute once you ultimately meet him. Number 1. The lack of consequences for your actions. Now, maybe it's just me, but there never really seems to be consequences of your actions. Whether you ultimately decide to be the good guy and help others within the Commonwealth, or when you're the bad guy and you seek to cause as much death and destruction as possible within the Commonwealth. In Fallout 3, you could blow up Megaton, which was a settlement of innocent people, or in New Vegas, you could activate Helios 1 and kill everyone inside, both the peaceful civilians as well as the military personnel there. Now, it's not like you can't do bad things in Fallout 4. There are bad things you can do, like killing Virgil, killing Desdemona, selling the child ghoul into slavery, or engaging in cannibalism. It's just that it never feels like you're confronted by the weight of your actions. You're only given a dialogue box at the upper corner of the screen that simply says that your companion liked or disliked what you did. After all, What if you don't travel with a companion? You're not going to know what's right or wrong. In Fallout 3 in New Vegas, depending on whether you were a good or bad character, there was a faction that would be coming after you to kill you because of the things that you did. There's not really anything like the Regulators or the Talon Mercenary Company from Fallout 3. There's also nothing like Caesar's Legion from New Vegas hunting you down in Fallout 4. Something that would have been evil to do in Fallout 4 would have been the option to betray the Minutemen at the very end of the game. Or maybe you could have chosen to help the Raiders kill the Minutemen at Concord, and you could have helped that faction ultimately go over and kill the Institute. It would have been interesting to side with the Raiders as opposed to the Minutemen. And the Minutemen are generally considered the good guys in the game, and the ability to wipe them out for good and help the Raiders at the beginning of the game would have had a lot more impact to the game's story, especially if word of your deeds got around to the other Wastelanders and the popular companions like Nick Valentine or Piper, and it would have been interesting to see how they would have judged you based on your actions that you took previously. Anyway guys, that's going to pretty much wrap up this particular video. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, and as always, take care and I'll see y'all next time.